first big news, though, is that Anthony Davidson is not out of breath. Your training this season is exemplary. You've come into the box, barely a bead of sweat on you.
Yeah, it's pretty hot out there still, but yeah, the training's paying off, so I do it. So yeah, 25.6 degrees air temp and 30.9 degrees track temp. So it was up at 36.8 last time I looked during FP1. So yeah, a rapid decrease in track and air temperature, and that's going to serve them well when it comes to more grip, a better balance from the car. The long runs looked difficult for everyone, excuse me, particularly the Ferraris. We heard Leclerc quite vociferous on the radio saying, this thing's undrivable, I've got no grip. Other drivers as well, I think Lindblad was saying it feels like driving on ice. Yep. So yeah, the track wasn't in great condition during FP1, so hopefully now it will help.
Isaac Hadja had maybe had the kangaroo petrol in, I don't know, but his car was jumping around a bit, he said too. Yep. And we say it every year, don't we? What is the point of FP1 in Abu Dhabi? Because that's not the conditions they go racing. So for Oscar Piastri, missing an unrepresentative session might actually be a really good thing. And if he thinks back to his teammate Lando Norris when he's missed FP1 this season, he's taken pole and he's gone on to win the race. Could be the first of many omens we'll bring you this weekend.
Although I'd like to think that he reads your stats like that, Crofty. I somehow doubt that he prepares and bases his FP1 sessions that he gives up to a rookie driver on that.
Good point,
you never know.
made.
You never know.
Good point, well made. Look, there's the man in the box seat, 408 points. Lando Norris leads the championship then by 12 points from Max Verstappen. There's a 16-point lead for Lando over Oscar Piastri. There's plenty of permutations. We'll bring them to you throughout the weekend. First and foremost, though, one of those three I think really has got to concentrate on qualifying on a weekend where we say goodbye to Sauber, and it's brilliant to see that Peter Sauber is here as well, stood at the back of the garage, which was his garage for a while. He's not been in charge of the team for many years now, but after 32 years and 617 race weekends, 11,957 days since JJ Leto and Carl Wendlinger lined up on the grid in the South African Grand Prix, it's the final race for the Sauber name in Formula One.
There's a lot of history here, is it? Yeah. South African Grand Prix, JJ Leto. Come on, yeah, I haven't heard those names for a while.
Did you know that 33 drivers have scored a total of 1,086 points for the team? The latest, of course, the last different driver being Gabriel Bortoleto this season.
I did not know that.
You do now, my friend. But yeah, I don't know if they're going to do a guard of honor for Peter Sauber or for everybody, but I'm sure they will bow out in style. One of those names, Ted Kravitz, that it just screams Formula One to me. You can say they've had a win if you believe that the BMW Sauber years were the Sauber years.
Definitely.
I don't think Peter Sauber believes that. That wasn't proper Sauber, that was the BMW time, but they've been a great presence in the paddock and on the grid.
I think Robert Kubica thinks that, doesn't he, Crofty?
Well, he certainly thinks that.
I think he definitely thinks that he won a race for BMW Sauber. But let me tell you about what's been going on. As you referred to that 58 laps on Sunday, well, how they go, how quick they are in those 58 laps, largely depends on the setup work they do right here, right now. And there's been some setup changes to Max Verstappen's Red Bull, only just finished. Also some changes to Oscar Piastri's car after it was driven by Pato O'Ward in free practice one. That's why you saw Piastri out of the car. Those changes largely finished. Oscar's about to get in the car if he's not already in that McLaren, and Max is ready to go. I saw the tyres as they came off Max's car at the end of that session, and they were degraded. I mean, they were not looking happy at all. So had he been out there by himself, Max, he would have said this balance is all over the place. Luckily for him, everyone else was having a similar kind of experience in the very unrepresentative track conditions. So the question is, has he got a car underneath him, both Oscar and Max now, in which he can fight for victory? We're about to find out.
Has he got a car? Qualified fourth, finished sixth last year. Before that, he won from pole 4 times in 4 years. And I was going to say, before we reflected on Sauber, to me, this race weekend, a lot of it hinges on qualifying, because this is a track, you get on pole, get on the front row, you give yourself an excellent chance. After that, it is very tricky to get a win.
It seems to be statistically, but it's also a circuit that does reward a fast car during the race. If you can look after your tyres, it is a track where the undercut is incredibly powerful. Yep. It isn't a race where it's a straightforward one stop, for example, and it's not a race where we're limited to just 25 laps per stint like we were at the last one.
Few.
So you should therefore see a bit of overtaking, but obviously qualifying is super important around here to lead the way, to kick up the turbulent air for the rest behind you.
I mean, it's a weird one, isn't it? Because you're absolutely right. We had 31 overtakes last year outside of the first lap. That car needs to be on the track, not parked on the back of a boat, surely.
I'm sure it hasn't got an engine in it, Crofty. Might not be going anywhere.
How do they get it up there? Like a ramp or jump? I have no idea. But well parked, Fernando or Lance, whoever it was. Yeah, 31 overtakes last year. But for the last 10 years here, Pole has won. 10 times out of 10. It's level with Barcelona for the most consecutive races won from pole at a single circuit.
I wonder if it's got anything to do with the very short run into turn one, as well, unlike Barcelona. But so if you do get into the lead, and you know, it's a track that, it sounds silly to say, it very much rewards the fastest cars. It's not a track where you can wrestle something extra out of it as a driver. It's going to place you on the grid where your car kind of deserves to be, but never say never. You know, stats are there to be broken, and I'm sure the man that's just on screen at the moment has something to say about that.
The left air vent of my helmet is pointing upward, so it's going in my eye. If we can review that next time I'm in the box, please.
Understood. It's going to make your eyes water a little bit, that one. I would have thought. The other thing, of course, is that it is invariably the season finale here. So by the time we get to Abu Dhabi, and we've had no new upgrades for any car on the grid this weekend, by the time we get to Abu Dhabi, teams have done their development, and the pace and the pecking order is fairly set.
Fairly locked in, isn't it? And it's not a track where you see anyone bringing upgrades. It's a track where you're seeing the finer details of the setup items that they can go through, as Rachel and I just witnessed down at McLaren, still tinkering with the car into the last couple of minutes before sending them out there in FP2.
Look at that, 7 wins this season, the magnificent 7 for all 3 of our championship contenders. One of them could get 8. If they're all tied on 7 and we get level on points, Lando's got way more second places, by the way, than Max or Oscar. So on a countback, he would win if we get a tie on points and no one's won the Grand Prix. Now, and there might be a permutation for that, but quite frankly, Hans, I haven't got that far in the list of permutations, because there's a lot of them.
There are a lot of them, and I think the drivers are just going to... They're going to do their best, obviously, in qualifying to get as far up the grid as they can. Someone like Max Verstappen will just be thinking, firstly, about the victory, qualifying, pole, and the victory.
Yep.
And then you start to ask the questions of where your competitors are and see if there's anything that can be done to try to manipulate the situation. Like this race a few years ago in 2016 springs to mind with Lewis Hamilton and Nico Rosberg.
Backing into the pack,
Backing into the pack. Could this be a thing?
Don't be surprised if that happens. Right, now as Verstappen crosses the line to complete his first flying lap, he goes second fastest behind Ollie Behrman, who's on the soft tyres straight away. Here's a QR code for you. If you want the championship permutations, there it is. That'll take you to every single permutation during the course of the race, so you can impress your friends with all your knowledge. I think that's a great thing that our digital team have come up with us all, and I will be using that. Thank you very much to Sam and to Jay Gal and to Nigel as well for putting that together. Got another QR code for you as we just watched the Ferrari on the curb, and this is if you want to run on board or hear the team radio. Guess what? You can use the QR code that we're going to put on the screen for you. Takes you straight to the Sky Sports app. You need your Sky Sports login, and if you're watching on Now, if you're watching on Sky Q, on Sky Stream or Sky Glass, you can use the interactive button on your remote control. There's your parish notices for a while. We're 6 minutes into the session. It surprises me that they've gone straight out on the softs with Ollie Behrman, but the rest on mediums or hard in the case of Colapinto. And here's Oscar Piastri. So he's got to finish first or second this weekend and then see what happens after that. And he is more than capable of doing that, and had a dominant weekend in Qatar before the safety car, etc., etc. Let's follow his progress.
Yeah, Oscar was not quite himself just after the Zandvoort race this season. He lost, I don't know whether it was a bit of confidence, a little bit of feel for the car. The car was ever changing towards the latter half of the year, and maybe that just swung in Lando's favour, maybe went against the way that Oscar liked the car, particularly in tracks like Baku, where he had a low grip situation. It just didn't quite click for him. It didn't look like he was himself behind the wheel. Came good in terms of pace, at the last race in Qatar. Is it a case of too little, too late for the Aussie? But I'm sure he's going to be rapid here as well. It's a circuit where I think his kind of natural style will suit this track, and certainly you've got to say he'll have the car to do it to the business as well. So let's see how he gets on during this session. But he's got to play a little bit of catch up because the other drivers had, or a lot of the other drivers had that chance to run through FP1.
Piastri goes 8th fastest. He's nearly 8/10 off the pace after that lap. Norris had put a lap in. He's nearly half a second off the pace. Isaac Hadjar on his flying lap on the soft compound tyre here is absolutely storming it. So we've got soft tyres Ocon, soft tyres Behrman, soft tyres Hadjar, who, if you've missed the news, will be Max Verstappen's teammate, has been announced now at Red Bull for next year. And he looks very calm about the whole thing when he was speaking about it in the press conference yesterday. Across the line he goes, quickest overall by about 0.6 of a second. That's a pretty decent lap there from Isaac Hadjar. Now you might be thinking, Lando Norris now a second off the pace. That might have been a surprise. Piastri being a little bit further down, something of a surprise as well. There's a possible impeding here. Max Verstappen and Lando Norris. This is Verstappen.
You've got Norris not opening a lap behind you. Or maybe he is coming through.
And he was. He was opening a lap behind Max Verstappen. So Max was in the way and then moved out right at the last moment. I think the radio probably came to Max a little bit sooner than the sync that we heard there.
What's this guy doing? Almost crashed.
So already there, Hans, the games have started.
This guy is the guy that wants to steal your world championship away from you. That's who this guy is.
Yeah, I expect plenty more of radio banter, shall we say?
But that was nothing malicious from Max. There, it was just you know, it's a teamwork, it's a team effort by your engineer and the driver, and that was GP, his engineer, just reading the situation slightly wrong because he thought that Lando was on a cool lap or a double cool lap, but actually he was pushing.
And it is possible to get that wrong at the moment because there are some that are doing 2 preparation laps before a push lap because the temperatures obviously have changed somewhat. Should we go trackside? Because as lovely as it is to ride on board, and we are running on board with Kimi Antonelli right now, we can go to turn 12, which is a fabulous corner to spend some time at. Martin Brundle, good evening to you.
Good evening, everybody. Yeah, it's quite an interesting corner, actually. It's a 90-degree right-hander before they go underneath the hotel. And this is where the drivers are really starting to back up if they want to find themselves some space, prepare their tyres, and what have you. So a wild and wide mixture of speeds. You see the Alpine going through there, almost the pedestrian phase. And George Russell comes through at a fast pace, but immediately gets out of the way. Well, we've got an Aston Martin trying to get out of the way of Kimi Antonelli as well now. So this is where all the shenanigans start, especially during the first part of qualifying when all 20 cars are out there. They use the sort of track furniture, the curb there, you can see where they run. It's very heavily serrated, the red and white curb there. But when you've got a lot of roll in the car, you're leaning on the outside tyres. That inside front in particular is sort of slightly unloaded, so you can do that. That means you can minimise the angle of that corner as Lewis Hamilton pours his Ferrari through there. And that is Oscar Piastri. And he's just out. Of course, he didn't do FP1, but I noticed Oscar has got the back end hanging out a little bit. He does that quite a lot, actually, through the year, everywhere. And then he sort of calms it down a bit. But Oscar's really not too worried if the back's sliding. But then eventually, you know, when the wheels are spinning or the back sliding, you're not going forward at the best rate. So that's pretty critical. Interestingly, they'll never run over these bollards. It might break the front wing, but as Max Verstappen goes through, the engines are very fluffy as the drivers pick up the throttle, having been off throttle for quite a long time. Sounds like traction control. You can hear it there with the Honda in the racing boat. And George Russell's Mercedes too. It sort of has to, every time they put their foot on the throttle, another Mercedes there, or Fernando Alonso, I think that was. It's like the engine has to clear its throat. If there was any kind of traction control, the FIA would see that immediately. They interrogate the electronic control unit on the car, but it's very distinctive. They've come sweeping in it and off the throttle, and Charles Leclerc again, the back end of the Ferrari, just not quite hooked up as I saw last weekend in Qatar. So it's just 60 miles an hour through here. There's so much going on. It's such an important little section. Lando Norris, they're taking an awful lot of that inside curve. Back to you, Crofty.
Yeah, thanks ever so much, Martin. We're getting a really good indication of the sound of the cars. And for the last time as well, because the power units completely change for next season. And Martin, that's a great description. The engine sounds like it wants to clear its throat a little bit. As the drivers pick up the throttle.
Yeah, all that's going on there is cutting cylinders, basically. It's a way to keep the engines cooler, it's make them more efficient, save more fuel, and yeah, it's something that all of the engine manufacturers learned over the years, even in the normally aspirated V8s. That's the first time I ever heard it happen or heard of it happening. So it does sound odd when you're out on track like Martin was, but it's a brilliant corner, turn 12, where he was standing. It's a corner where you are, like you said, you're loading the car up as you brake. So there's a lot of things that can happen there, a lot of forces at play, and we saw Lando lose the rear end on his first proper push lap during FP1 very late in the corner, but it all begins from when you start braking, and you can't be aggressive therefore on the brake pedal and just stamp on it like you would do in a straight line braking, like where we are with Alonso and these drivers coming up to turn 6. A straight line braking, you can throw all the force on the brake pedal, hit it for all it's worth in the beginning when the car's fully loaded with downforce, and as the downforce bleeds off as you slow down, you then have to start modulating the brake, lifting off of the brake and feeling the car under you, and that's what's going on in turn 12 because it's a slower speed corner.
You know, next year we go to sustainable fuels.
Yes.
So big change in the fuels. I was talking to someone, a very clever person last night, about fuels. They've been involved in the development of one of the fuels. And I said, what you need to do is you've got to be like Back to the Future. You know, the bit where Doc kind of flies in on the car and he rummages around in the rubbish bin and he chucks a load of stuff into the back of the DeLorean. And then
I'm sure he was loving that analogy.
Well,
yeah.
I said, you've got to use waste. That's the best way to do it. He said, well, who says we're not? I said, I'm sorry. He said, who says we're not using waste? I said, are you using waste? He went, no. We're scraping the waste off the waste for next year. I went, really? And that's intriguing. He went, no, that's pretty much what we're doing for sustainable fuels for next year. Which I thought was a really great description, but it left me asking many, many more questions. That is all to come in 2026. We're on board with Lewis Hamilton, who is saying, look, I'll be back for 2026. I will be around on the grid. He will want a much better Ferrari car underneath him, and we've seen the struggles, haven't we, in the last few races with a couple of Q1 knockouts in succession. That lap only good enough for 12th fastest overall. Lewis, by the way, most successful driver in terms of race wins and poles here in Abu Dhabi, with 5 of each. And there's Max Verstappen, a couple of tenths behind Isaac Hadjar and Ollie Behrman, who have run the soft tyres as opposed to the medium. Yeah,
Lewis, another one of those drivers, of course, didn't take part in free practice 1. It was, in fact, Charles Leclerc's brother that was behind the wheel of Lewis's car. So Lewis back in action now, and one of those drivers that's having to play catch-up. I mentioned Piastri, he's down there in P11 at this point as well, and so he's another driver that was not out there in the first practice session, and it takes a little while before you find your feet and almost unlearn the things that you may have learned in the simulator before hitting the track in real life. Obviously there's a lot of good that comes from it, but most of that goodness comes to the engineers that are setting the car up, and for a driver sometimes can be a little bit counterproductive, I'd say, driving the sim before they arrive in real life, unless of course you're very lucky in terms of finding the sweet spot of exactly where the car's going to be when you hit the track for real.
Tyres coming very much into an operating window there for Lando Norris, fastest overall in the final sector. He's just over a tenth of a second off the pace, being set by Hadjar and Behrman. After FP1, there was just 8 1/1000ths of a second between Lando and Max, and it's close so far. Long way to go here in FP2. Zach Brown had a lot to say for himself in the break between the two practice sessions, had a lot to say to the Australian Parliament about some of the comments down there, and about some of the accusations of favouritism and this and that and the other. But the thing that's interested me most as Piastri goes 5th fastest is an interview Zach did with us on Sky Sports F1 with Craig Slater, basically saying, of course, we want to win the Drivers' Championship by whatever means, and if we have to swap our drivers around and ask them to do it, we are going to do that. And I get that completely, and I know it's counterintuitive to those who think Drivers' Championship, it's one driver against another, but the commercial value to McLaren for having a Drivers' Champion to go with the Constructors' Championship is absolutely massive. And they have had the dominant car for most of this season and do not want to leave 2025 with just one trophy. Discuss.
Well, no, there's just so much commercial value in it, isn't there? A driver winning the Drivers' Championship in your car. And I think that's all you can say. Zach is he's a commercially driven man as well.
Yep.
So he understands the importance of that, and rightly so. The team want to see that Drivers' Championship captured by one of their drivers.
I did think about you, though, this week. I think about you most weeks, to be
thanks,
fair.
mate.
But I did think about you, and I went back to Canada. And that year, obviously, when you and the Groundhog got a bit too close. But I remember after that race where your Super Aguri team are celebrating because Taku had got your first points, I think, in that race. And there were big celebrations, and you did not want to be part of that at all. Because quite rightly, what could have been and would have been your best ever finish in Formula One got taken away from you as Behrman goes quickest again.
Wow.
Into the 123s. By, the Groundhog moment. And the team were like, well, I don't understand why he doesn't want to celebrate. Well, I do, because this could have been a great day for Ant. Yeah, but it's for the team, isn't it? The team have done really well. Honestly, he couldn't give a damn about the team at the moment, because this great weekend was taken away from him. So I kind of thought about that in light of, playing the team game or playing the driver game. By the way, as far as I recall, you did pose for the photos in the end, even though you didn't really want to join in the celebration.
Honestly speaking, I can't remember. I really can't remember it. Yeah, if I didn't, it wouldn't have been my finest moment. But but that's what competition does to you, and different people handle it differently. So that was just, it was a disappointing day there, and I probably didn't react to it in the best way. But
to be honest, you reacted the way I expected you to react. And I really felt for you on that day, and we were sat on the little pontoon bit having a bit of a chat. And I'm like, mate, there'll be other chances. Come on, it's coming your way. You're like, no, this was the chance. This was the chance. Trust me, it was. But Oscar doesn't want to move over to let anyone past him. But I would expect, if it came to that, he would play the team game, because he wants to look people in the eye on the Monday morning and say, look, I've done the right thing for you guys. Next year, you do the right thing for me, right?
Let's see. Let's see if he does. You never know how you're going to react.
And he said he doesn't know himself, because he doesn't know what the question is just yet.
The cars definitely feeling much more together. Probably the majority from the wind shift.
Welcome back to the Yas Marina circuit, where, as often happens around here at this time of the evening, the wind picks up, it shifts around, it blows in over the marshes, the sands, and the sea.
And you start to hear drivers' comments like George Russell saying things are starting to feel a bit better with the car after the slippery surface of FP1 and the heat of the day. Once that calms down a bit, disperses, and we're now at 29.8 degrees track temperature.
You're watching that like a hawk, aren't you?
It gets better and better. So yeah, we're around 10 degrees now cooler on track temp than what it was in FP1. So, and that is huge. There can sometimes be over a second of performance in just that 10 degrees.
That is very true. So it's getting a bit cooler, the sun's going down. What we need in the commentary box is something a little bright. An injection of pink, ladies and gentlemen, as Paul Aaron steps into the commentary box. Face the camera, and then everyone will know what I'm going on about. How are you, Paul?
All good. Thanks for having me. I've never been doing commentary before, but...
This is the first?
This is the first.
Excellent. It's the first step on your road to Formula One full-time.
Is this part of being full-time in Formula One?
Yeah, it's part of your training.
This is a stat of Crofty's that he loves to roll out. So
Every
go on then.
driver that visits our commentary box as a rookie or a test driver, reserve driver, ends up with a race seat eventually.
Okay, I'll gotta forward that to the team then.
Yeah, well, too late for next year, and I apologise for that. We should have got you in sooner, but 27.
Bar Felipe Drugovich, of course. He's the only one that has kind of, we're yet to wait for that to turn out
still
good for
waiting
him.
on it.
I think Felipe was an exception.
He's an exception, yeah. We'll just ignore that one.
But otherwise, the sequence goes on. You've been out on the track today. How was it?
Yeah, I mean, I've just joined now looking at FP2, so to be honest, I missed a little bit the beginning because we were coming here. I don't know if much interesting happened, but yeah, it was a blast to be out there in the morning. I heard you talking about the track temp. I'm sure the cars feel much better now than they did in the morning, just because... Oh, that's me.
How are you doing that? How are you standing here and
this
driving at the
magic
same
of
time.
TV?
This might have been from earlier. What were the track conditions like?
Yeah, I mean, it's FP1, so the track's always going to be dirty, and also it was quite early during the day, so it was pretty hot. We did have a bit of shade cover, which helped a little bit with the track temperature, but for sure now in FP2, and the conditions we will have in qualifying, these night sessions, the track temperature drops, and generally when the track temperature is lower, the grip's much better. So for sure the drivers are happier now than they were in the morning. But yeah, it was nice to be back out there, because the last time I drove was in Mexico, and we know that Mexico is a track with high altitude, and the grip is much lower than normal. So it was nice to be back in a proper environment, in a feeling the downforce of the car, and actually being able to push.
How early on in the kind of preceding moments to this do you decide as a team when you're going to drive in FP1 sessions? When's it locked in?
I think it depends. The rule is that the team needs to lock it in 1 week before. In my case, it's sometimes been earlier, it's sometimes been later. It really depends. I guess everyone has a bit of a plan early on in the season. I think often the teams also ask the drivers where they would be happiest to give the sessions away, because ultimately that means that one of the main drivers will miss an FP1 session. But then you put the plan, but you need to be dynamic. And I think for us, we left the FP1s later in the season because they wanted to focus on the car early on in the season. I think some people were doing FP1s in Bahrain already, and we didn't do that with Alpine. But yeah, it just really depends on the team and how happy you're with the car and how happy are the drivers.
So you're with Alpine, you're the reserve driver at Alpine, but you've been driving the Sauber as well. Is there a big difference between the two cars or not?
Yes, there is. I mean, I don't know if I should drop it straight here on live commentary.
You're amongst friends. It's not a problem.
Yeah, I'm sure. You two might be friends here, but there's loads of people behind that screen listening to me. But yeah, there is a difference. Yeah, there is a difference. I mean, every car has a difference, especially in a championship like this. I think even in Formula 2 or a spec series, if you jumped in a different team's car, you hear often the drivers saying that one team has the car set up in a completely different way to another team. And those are spec series cars. So here in Formula 1, where you actually develop the car yourself, it's expected that there's bigger differences between the cars and between the driving styles. And
well, look, we've got two drivers on track at the moment that we should actually compare a little bit, even though they are in different cars for one more race. Max Verstappen and Isaac Hadjar on the soft tyre, both going for a qualifying simulation, and they matched each other during the first sector. Isaac is coming to the end of the middle sector now, and we'll see. He's about 2/10 down on Max, so nearly 3/10 overall, as Max continues on his way to set the fastest time of the session so far in the mid-123s. So it kind of puts that Ollie Behrman lap into perspective, and I think that's not a bad effort at all from Haas and from Ollie Behrman there to go half a second to Max Verstappen. Nice and close to the barriers for Isaac Hadjar, but in complete control all the while as he makes his way one more corner to go here. And let's just see the comparison in different cars, 2/10 of a second.
It looked very nice and tidy in that sector 3, and on this track, that's where the lap time is. If you talk to the teams and they have this sort of graph which tells you which sector is the most grip limited, and on this track, that graph is just going up and up, which means that the more you go through the lap, the more the grip becomes important. So sector 3 is the one where you win and lose the most time, and that's why often you might see a driver who's struggling a little bit in sector 1, but then he has more tire left for sector 3 and actually makes a much bigger leap forward in terms of lap time.
And it looked, you mentioned it looked controlled, and as does Hulkenberg's. It's hard to tell, a bit harder to tell off board than it is on board, like we were with Hadjar. But it's that from what I can make out, Paul, it's the carrying the speed through turn 12. We had Martin Brundle standing there on track earlier on when you were working your way up here, and that turn 12 into 13, you kind of end up rolling your way through there rather than letting the car snap around. And even though it looks exciting and quick, it's not necessarily the fastest way to drive these cars. Is that what you see as well there?
Yeah, I think it also depends a bit on the car. By the way, that was a stonking lap from Hulkenberg.
Yeah.
It was.
I had a weird snap turn 2. Yeah, weird.
And I actually had
Okay,
exactly the same moment in FP1. I think the cars are being run so low now just because that the lower and stiffer you are, there's... Oh, that was close.
He stops.
But I'm sure he's going to be unhappy about that.
Safe release from the Sauber.
But yeah, nowadays they run the cars so low and stiff, and that turn 2 and turn 3 area has been resurfaced. So there's a few new bumps there. Old bumps have been removed, but there's a few new ones. And I also had some scary moments during my FP1 session there. So exactly, basically what we saw from Sainz. But
Norris had a moment there as well in FP1, which caught him out. So yeah, like you say, it's maybe an area of the track that has changed from last year, and you're just going to have to rework the line. But Sainz was clearly surprised by it.
Kimi Antonelli, fastest in the first sector. George Russell just the other side of it, but less than a tenth between the two Mercedes. He's had a storming year as a rookie, I think, Kimi Antonelli, and a rookie season where he can learn a lot from. Brilliant start, then lost his way a bit, rediscovered his way, and has fought back in the last few races. You know, it's a massive learning curve this season.
yeah, for sure. I think overall all the rookies have done a good job. Some better than the others, but generally they're all been up there. And I think with how long the Formula 1 season is, it's always going to be a bit of a shock for a rookie in terms of managing their energy. I think very often we see the rookies being quick and being able to do their job on a few weekends, but to constantly do it for 24 weekends, I mean, it's tricky because you've never done it before and you're not used to that. Some of these Formula 1 drivers, you know, sometimes we think that they are taking the piss or they're a bit lazy because they want to come late to the track and so on. But actually, they're just managing their energy. And when you've got 24 races in a year, you need to manage your energy.
Got to apologise for that. I'm afraid, Paul, you're not in a debrief now. You're live on television, but it's your first time in the commentary box. But sorry about the language, ladies and gentlemen. Paul is now blushing.
Sorry about that. I don't... Is that a bad word?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Sorry about that.
Afraid so.
English is not my first language.
I'm sure the mechanics in the pits will tell you this is not a bad word, but it is. So.
Lando Norris goes quickest with a 1:23.0, puts 3.5 tenths between himself and Max Verstappen. But English isn't your first language. You're from Estonia. Where did the Formula 1 dream start? Estonia, not known necessarily for its Formula 1 heritage.
No, there's never been a Formula 1 driver, but there has been, for how small the country is, there's been very many successful motorsport people. And actually, Ott Tänak, who raced in WRC, he just announced a few weeks ago or maybe a month ago that he's retiring from WRC. He's a rally world champion. There's been a few guys back in the day who have been very close to having a Formula 1 drive. Marco Asmer was one of those. The story, what I've heard, is that basically he had the deal done, and that was the time where BMW pulled out of Formula 1 and ended up not having to drive. So there's been people close, and I would say from motorsport there's been many successful people. My brother is one professional driver at the moment. But yeah, I would love to kind of bring that flag to Formula 1 and break that barrier of getting an Estonian into Formula 1. And for me, the journey started from my father, who was...
There's something wrong with the engine. Are we acknowledging that, or are we thinking there's something wrong?
We've made some changes in the background.
Get the feeling Alex wouldn't have minded being told about the changes before they happened. We're on board with Oscar Piastri. Your father was your inspiration.
Yeah, so my father used to race bikes around street courses, so he was pretty crazy. And then he didn't let me and my brother do that because he thought that's a bit too dangerous. So then the deal was that my brother started racing on 4 wheels, where actually he wanted to race on dirt bikes as well. And then, yeah, my brother started in go-karts, and I was younger than him. I was always at the racetrack, saw him race. I really wanted to have a go myself. My dad let me have a go after about 3 years of begging. So when I was 7, he got me a go-kart. Got a really bad one, because he was hoping that if I'm slow, I'm not going to like it. And I was actually pretty decent.
Now, that wasn't a decent time for Oscar Piastri in comparison to Lando Norris and Max Verstappen. 1:23.7, nearly 7/10 off. Franco Colapinto has just gone 17th fastest. Pierre Gasly crosses the line now, stays 20th. Pierre Gasly's form in qualifying in the last few races has just been outstanding. It really has. Q3 at the last 2 race weekends and 10 Q3 appearances this season. What have you learned from Pierre Gasly when it comes to single lap pace?
Yeah, Pierre seems to be super good at just bringing everything together for that qualifying, because often we see him struggle in practice. I mean, now it's a bit understandable because he has missed out on FP1. But very often I've heard on the debriefs and I've heard on the radio watching the sessions that he's struggling and he's not happy. And very often in qualifying, he's just able to put it all together, and that's what he's very good at. But, you know, he's got a lot of experience in Formula 1. He's got a lot of experience with this Alpine team. So I think they've built this good entourage around him, and everyone sort of knows how to just learn as much as possible in the practices and then just put the package together for qualifying. And that's clearly very impressive, and I think that's something that Max does super well. We see him off there struggling in the practices and trying a lot of things, but when it comes to qualifying, he's always putting it together. So
you mentioned debriefs. So after FP1, you all go back into the truck, you sit together, or not the truck, but the suites, the offices that we have here. And so they're then relying a lot from your feedback on the car, I take it, from what you've just experienced in FP1. How's that for you?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I think it's also a strength. It can be a strength and a weakness of a driver, how good your feedback is. And that's something I've worked a lot throughout my career. From what I've heard, everyone's very happy with my feedback, and I'm pretty confident that I can deliver a good structurized feedback, because the thing in Formula 1 is that the more time you save, the better. Oh, that was a good slide from
great slide.
Nicely controlled that one.
Almost, you know, Max, was it last year where he had that massive moment finishing the lap? But yeah, the important thing is that you need to be structured. I mean, sometimes as a driver, you want to talk a lot and talk about all the details because you want to show that how much you can feel and understand. But for the engineers, the most important thing is to get the main points in a simple way and as structured of a way as possible. And that's what I tried to do during this FP1 debrief, give them the main limitations, main things I think they should work on for FP2. And from what I heard, they were very happy with my feedback. So now when we go to the debrief of FP2, I'll listen in and see what they did and if what I suggested was the right direction.
And at least tonight you haven't got an overnight in the sim like you have had earlier in the season, and then rushing back to the track as well. We could talk all night. We can't, because we need to let you go. But Paul, thanks for coming up, mate.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure.
Best of luck next year as well. And the year after, we'll be talking about you, not just as a rookie driver. Guaranteed.
Guaranteed. Yeah, you've done it now.
Thank you very much, and sorry for the language.
Yeah. Paul Aaron with us, ladies and gentlemen, and always a pleasure to see him around. Ted Kravitz has some news on Oscar Piastri.
What a lovely chap Paul Aaron.
He's a great lad.
Nice to hear Marco Asma referred to again.
Yeah.
Bit of a blast from the past. I remember him. Right. Okay, so it's going okay for Lando Norris. It's going okay for Max Verstappen. It's even going okay for George Russell. So what is going on with Oscar Piastri, I hear you ask, Crofty? Well, they don't have a balance yet. He doesn't have a balance yet. He's happy with. He's gone out, continuing the run, just came in about a minute and a half ago to the box, made a quick adjustment via the quick change on the front flap, and then sent him out again. So if we get to the end of the hour and he's still not happy, then there's an issue, because it all then depends on overnight changes and free practice 3. Let's see how this works for Piastri on the long run. Hopefully you can have a look at it, Anthony, the times, or have a look at some onboards and see how that car's handling, because at the moment he's behind.
Paul Aaron was talking about how you can lose a lot of time in the final sector. Let's carry on in that final sector and go trackside once more. Martin Brundle's at turn 15.
Turn 15 of just 16 now, and it's all of your sensors are used down here, as you'll see when they come. Piastri comes through here. The last corner I was at 60 miles an hour. This is 160 miles an hour, 250 kilometers per hour, and yeah, you can see them, you can hear them. I almost feel like I can touch them, but I don't think I'll bother. There's Lewis quite slowly. You can smell them as they're rubbing the ground, and if they straddle that curve on on the outside, you can taste the performance of the car. They cut up so much dust and sparks, and it's really, really exciting place to be, important place to be. So they're flat out through here. But immediately, if they want to go in the pit lane, they have to come off the exit of this corner into the pit lane. That's the final corner you can see down there now. Or they take a really high line into it, and really clumsy final corner. There's the Williams just taking to the pit entry, and they're practicing that. So they're coming off this corner at 160, and then boom, they go in the pit. So, of course, any time you spend getting in the pit lane, through the pit lane, pit stop, the changing the wheels, etc., is race time lost, of course. So every little thing matters. But at this stage of the season, as we see the Sauber going in the pit, this stage of the season, the cars look beautiful. They're so well balanced here. The drivers, not a hint of a lift, or they used to run wide here pretty much consistently when I've stood here in previous years. So they're well sorted. The track's quite smooth. They know what they're doing. They've got setups here. The drivers know how to drive this track, and it really stands out in two testing corners like this.
Wait, the car is insane.
Where there's
I don't know
how going on.
Oh, it's so good.
Thanks ever so much, Martin. Absolutely brilliant. What a view trackside as well. What Martin didn't see was this moment for Oscar Piastri. We saw him flashing past Martin, but this lock-up going into turn 6, into the chicane, and that cost him a heap of time on his second flying run, which is why he ended up just under 7/10 down on his teammate Lando Norris.
Yeah, he didn't lose it all there, but the majority of it was lost in that. I might have to have a cheeky look at that one on the onboard from the SkyPad later on.
So Ted says if he can't find a balance at the end of the session, then that is a massive worry. Did it look like a balanced car to you, or could that explain the lockup?
The balance might not explain completely the lockup. That would be more of a tools thing inside the car. So your brake balance, brake migration, the way it migrates from front to rear or vice versa, depending on how you have it set up. But yeah, many tools that you can adjust. The differential of the car, of course, on the initial phase, the mid-corner phase, high-speed phase. So all these tools you can play with the car, and it has a huge effect. You have the amount of electric motor regen, which you can use as a handbrake effect. So you might want to go up on that for turn 6, for example, just help alleviate some of the lockup. So I mean, that's just off the top of my head what you can do. It's like solving a maths equation. Many different routes to get to the right answer is what you can do with these cars. So yeah, and also I put it down to a lack of running an FP1 still.
Potentially, yeah.
Going back to, sorry, Crofty, going back to where Martin was standing though, turn 15. He's playing it cool there. I've stood on the inside of that corner before, and it is the hairs on the back of your neck really stand on it. It's just brilliant there. The energy, the power you feel from a Formula 1 car standing on the inside there is really something else. I'm very jealous if you can't tell.
Well, I tell you what, let's make you even more jealous. Did you hear that team radio message from Ollie Behrman?
Yeah.
Right, this is fantastic.
Wait, the car is insane. I don't know how it's so good.
That is the kind of feedback you want from your driver.
Yeah, well, you'd also like to find a solution, find an argument and a reason as to why it's so good. That way you might be able to keep it good for the rest of the weekend.
When he peels off a sticker on the nose of the car and realises this is actually a McLaren underneath it. Piastri, aha, it all makes sense.
Yeah, we swapped with Piastri, yes. Hamilton crosses the line, stays down in 13th. And well, that lap, the car looked like it just wasn't sticking right at the outset through that corner, turn 1. Norris and Verstappen then, 3.5 tenths between them. They're the top two. So you've driven a lot of laps here, mainly on the sim, I would imagine.
Yeah, I have, yeah.
But how many laps does it take you to get yourself dialed in?
In the virtual world or in the real world?
Well, we'll start with a virtual world, and then it's meant to be as close to the real world as it ever can be.
Yeah, it's it takes a while, this track. It's hard to get back into the rhythm, especially through the third sector. It's like what Paul Aaron was saying when he said that really is the sector. You arrive there more often than not with the tyres crying because they're overheating, and you have to stay controlled and ride that peak grip as best you can without it falling over itself. So that's the trick to this circuit. In some areas you need that controlled aggression. Other areas like turn 9, for example, the high-speed left-hander, you really need to get stuck in and push the car and expect the car to start snapping on you as you go through the crosswind phase. And no, it's not an easy circuit, really, but it is a circuit that most of them know very well. Even younger drivers, inexperienced drivers like Kimi Antonelli, for example.
Isaac Hadger as well was another one that, you know, he's raced in, you know, junior Formula. They've done a lot of TPC testing of previous cars here as well,
and that makes a difference. So and I always found as a driver as well, Crofty, that I only truly learnt a track properly after I'd raced on it.
Right.
As strange as that sounds, so it's not just, you have to learn a circuit in lots of different guises. You have to learn it when you're on low fuel, new tyres. You've got to learn where you can push those new tyres, where you can't, how you carry, like Paul Aaron was saying again, where you carry the grip from your tyres through the lap and use it all in the final sector, or what you have left in that final sector wisely, and not burn it all up in the first sector, for example, like turn 1 and turn 5. And it's learning those tricks throughout a weekend, through the race as well, what the car feels like in turbulent air around different corners, and how you can manipulate the tyres through the race stints that you drive. It's only then that you truly know a track inside and out. You know where to go within a couple of laps. You know where it goes left and right, and roughly where to brake, and
just where you can take liberties a little bit, or where you have to dial yourself back.
It's like learning it in any situation that it can throw at you. That's when you truly know a circuit.
Right, who knows the circuit best? From that evidence, Lando Norris, because Max Verstappen is only really dominant over Lando down the straights and into and out of the hairpin and the chicane.
This is a track where Lando enjoys. Look at what he did here last year, and this is what he's got to keep doing this weekend if he's to keep that wave going, like riding the wave like he has been.
There's Mum's here, love it.
She's loving it. But yeah, he's just got to keep that momentum going this week if he's to take this championship in the way he wants to.
So just under 16 minutes to go of this session. Alex Albon on track and currently in P15. His teammate Carlos Sainz just P13. It's second fastest for Max Verstappen, and his team boss Lauren Mekis joins us this weekend on the pit wall. Lauren, great to have your company. Tell us how this track has changed for you as a team and for the drivers since the first session in the daylight.
Yeah, I mean, fair enough. It's one of the biggest change of the year, really, just because of the reduced track temperatures. We are now about 5 degrees down compared to FP1. In truth, it's normally a bigger gap than that. You know, FP1 was actually quite overcast, so I think we all could do some decent balance work there, where normally it's pretty useless. And but no, the real deal is now, really. Max has switched to his long run now. As you have seen, we have switched quite early on there to try to prepare for the race as best as we can.
Lauren, it's Anthony here. We saw many drivers and teams struggling with the long run pace, as you mentioned, during FP1. And I know the track was more dusty and it was hotter, but surely the focus has to be on that, because it is a track where you can get overtaking done, no? Or are you still focusing on qualifying?
You're absolutely right, Anthony. The focus is more so on the race stream, and again, that's why we've switched so early to preparing our long run. We only did one push on the soft. Yes, you can overtake here. There is a couple of places where you can do it. It's probably one of the most favorable track for that. So priority is absolutely on race pace, tire management, and so that's where we try to spend the energy right now.
And obviously, we're thinking ahead to Sunday and what happens at the checkered flag. What's clicked at Red Bull? What has happened since you took over as team principal? were the developments in the pipeline before to make the car better, or have you and your engineering team come up with something that has helped improve the car,
is he doing?
since the summer break?
Now, the simple truth is that there is 2,000 fantastic people in Milton Keynes, and they have never ever given up on this year's car. And of course, they were not happy with where the project was in the first part of the seasons. You know, we were not fast enough compared to competitions. Nobody wanted to give up, and it's a combination of well designed development for the car that arrived in the second part of the year, plus many small steps at 360 degrees across all car areas that adding to each other have allowed us to be back in the game.
Lauren, it's a massive weekend. We really appreciate you taking the time to speak to us. We look forward to talking tomorrow as well.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Now, I'll pause for 2 seconds because our producer Tommy is now dialing Zach Brown. He's actually got Lauren Mekies and Zach Brown on speed dial this weekend, and hopefully Zach has answered and he's put his headset on and he can talk to us on the pit wall too. Hello Zach, how are you feeling?
Good, now that Oscar's let me back in my seat.
Yeah, he nicked your seats and then went out on the track, only P11. I'm not sure he wants your seat back again or what you can do to help that P11 go up a little bit, but he seems to be struggling out there this evening.
Now he just missed sector 2 on his push lap, but he's in long runs now, so yeah, I don't think he's totally dialed in yet, but he'll get there.
And Zach Lando certainly looks like he's got the bit between the teeth at the moment, fast on the short runs. The long runs look pretty good as well. He's certainly keeping himself in the zone where he needs to be. How much have the team helped him so far through this weekend to kind of blank out as much noise as possible, including Crofty?
It's business as usual. I know obviously there's a tremendous amount at stake, but I've been very impressed with both our drivers coming into the weekend. They seem actually more relaxed than normal. We had a great team barbecue last night. The speeches that both Oscar and Lando gave together were awesome. So it's been a great year. Very excited this 24th race. 3 drivers, as far as I'm concerned, any of the 3 can win it. Kind of feels like they're all on equal points. Of course, they're not, but that's how we're approaching the weekend, and we'll see what qualifying brings in the race.
Right, approach to the weekend. The drivers said it hasn't been discussed yet, the possibility that one might have to make way for the other to allow them to win a championship. That was yesterday. This morning, Craig Slater spoke to you, and you said, no, we've had that chat now, and we will do whatever we can to win this championship. So just give us your perspective, because a few fans will go, no, that's not right, no one should ever move over for the other, but your perspective as the McLaren CEO as to why you would ask a driver to do that.
Well, you know, we've said from day one, and we've been very consistent, that we want to give both drivers equal opportunity to win the championship. I think that's exactly what we've done all year. It's exactly what we're going to continue to do going into the race. But if we find ourselves at some point in the race where it's clear one driver has a much better chance than another, then we're going to do what we can to make sure we get this drivers' championship for the team. That's what the team wants. So enter the race with the intention of giving both equal opportunity, but if it plays out where one needs to help the other, then we'll be good teammates, and that's exactly what we'll do.
And can I ask, when that scenario was put to the drivers, what was their response?
Well, they're both very focused on trying to win the championship, but they're great team players. We've seen it last year in, you know, the Qatar sprint and the Brazil sprint, so they look after each other. So I think they understand what can play out, but their total focus is trying to win the championship, and when and if that scenario appears, I have no doubt they'll both be great team players. They have been for a couple of years now.
Thanks ever so much, Zach, and like Lauren, we really appreciate your time this weekend. Thank you.
Cheers.
So we've got Zach Brown, we've got Lauren Mekies. We've got bases covered, right, for the race on Sunday, for qualifying as well.
Now all we need is them to talk to each other and us be live at the same time during the race.
That's a good idea. Yeah, we'll put that to them tonight as well. We've also got Bernie Collins coming in. She's going to be on our pit wall for Sunday's race, giving us some strategy insight. You're going to be at race control. Martin Brundle and myself might try and get a word in edgeways and do some commentary on this as well. We are as pumped for this season finale as pumped can be.
You know, we all come here wanting to do the best job we possibly can, whether you're a broadcast team, whether you're a driver, team manager, pit crew, you name it. It's the last race. There's a lot of eyes on it. There's a lot at stake, and it just should elevate everyone to a higher level, because that's where everyone wants to be. But sometimes, especially from a driver's point of view, you can tighten up a bit because you want it so badly. And that's the point where you've got to try and relax back into it to deliver your A game. And it's not easy.
Who's this Ferrari?
Leclerc, the big Leclerc.
Understood.
That's excellent. Not his younger brother, the big boy.
Not junior, senior.
The full fat Leclerc.
Oh, love it. There was an investigation. Kimi Antonelli impeding Esteban Ocon. No further investigation.
No, it was Ocon impeding Antonelli, and it was really bad. But, you know, it's a practice session, and cars go different speeds quite often in a practice session. Arvid Lindblad, he was another one of our 9 rookies out there.
And will be a 5th British driver on the grids for next season as well. 6, of course, if you include Alex Albon, who races under a Thai licence, but, of course, was born in London. Ted Kravitz, what you got for us?
I'm at Ferrari, Crofty, watching just before he went out on his long run, Lewis Hamilton and his progress. And I didn't see much change to the car, so I think the setup is okay. I think that position you're seeing him in, 14th, isn't really representative, because I believe he made a mistake on the last sector of his fastest lap and was about half a second off his teammate Charles Leclerc, or 4/10 or 3/10. So I think the rest of the sectors were actually okay for Hamilton. So don't think that he's that far behind his teammate, not representative, but we'll see how he goes. By the way, a load of final race special crash helmet designs, Crofty. I know they're not entirely your cup of tea, but I just have to single out Hamilton's, which is a full mirrored chrome dome with gold detailing around the side, and Carlos Sainz's special crash helmet design, where he's gone full Sparkles the Unicorn. Did you know about this?
I haven't seen it up close.
Okay, the lucky Sparkles the Unicorn. That's the sticker, Team Radio.
No, it's just a transcript. The car's bouncing too much in turn 3.
Ah, okay. So some more work for the Red Bull engineers overnight. Given how Max likes a good ride, yeah, the lucky unicorn. It was a sticker from a fan called Thea. After that, he got his podium in Azerbaijan. Then he got his podium in Qatar last week, and he's gone full Sparkles the Unicorn for his helmet for the last race, and it looks fantastic.
Fair play if it's a lucky omen. We don't never mind that at all. And Carlos, the first Williams driver to get multiple points in a single season since Felipe Massa and Valtteri Bottas did it back in 2015. One man who is very much allowed a special crash helmet for this weekend, Nico Hülkenberg, 250th Grand Prix, and the 3rd German driver to do that. This is Max's moment.
Yeah, it looked a little bit worse. Maybe it looks worse on the onboard, but it's certainly the shot where the car was coming towards us looked a little bit more extreme than that. There. Yeah, and you know what? When you're traveling close to 200 miles an hour at that point on the circuit, it does feel like a big moment, despite the small adjustment on the steering wheel.
Just on the subject of Nico Hülkenberg, by the way, because Paul Aaron, when he was with us in the commentary box, with a big thumbs up as Hülkenberg at the time went 2nd fastest. Don't be surprised about Hülkenberg's qualifying pace here, because he was 4th on the grid last year before he got that 3-place penalty for overtaking in the tunnel, which was...
I remember that.
Yes, as the tunnel goes under the track. But Q3 for Nico from 2015 all the way to last year as well.
And that's something to hold on to as well, I guess, for all of us, but mostly you, Crofty, is to watch out for that in qualifying if it happens again, because it's so tempting for a driver to do exactly that when you've got the frustratingly long queue of cars that tend to queue up now before you go out because of the minimum lap time delta that you're allowed to drive to. They tend to queue up in the pit lane, and then it opens up the opportunity just to drive around the outside of somebody like Hulkenberg did. Thought he was doing the right thing, because usually you can overtake in the pit. Yeah, but not here. Different regulation in place.
Not when you go in underground, you've got to stick with the jam. You wouldn't get that. 80-some references and all that. So
nod along politely.
It is often the best way, to be fair. So you got Behrman, Hulkenberg, Bortoletto, 4th, 5th and 6th.
I'm loving the fact that you've got a mix up there with the Haas and the Saubers. And I mean, Behrman's the one that I'm sure the Sauber's going to be quick enough and maybe challenge the top 10, but Behrman's the one that really intrigues me. To come out of the comment like he did, how on earth is this car feeling as good as it does? It's insanely fast. I mean, that is great. That's exactly what your team... Don't just polish it. Don't touch it now.
And you know, already good news for Haas this weekend with their title sponsor for next year, and I would imagine a more technical tie-up in the future to come with Toyota. Aya Komatsu very much laying the path there. And we can all read between the lines for more and more of a collaboration with Toyota. This is that crash helmet of Lewis Hamilton's that we saw very briefly. Lando Norris with the traditional Norris design, which he would quite like to add a gold star on at the back, should he be world champion.
Look at that, when the lighting is just right, you just glimpse inside the driver's visor, and it's just maximum concentration there. It's great to see.
His race pace significantly better than Oscar Piastri's currently, and the two McLarens ahead of the the Red Bull.
The Red Bull and Max Verstappen is, you know, Norris looks like he's completely in the groove right now, and continuing on where he left off from this circuit last year, where it's thanks to his drive here, in that critical moment, it's really what helped give McLaren, it gifted them the championship. It almost against the odds, but he did the business here last year to topple Max Verstappen.
They got that Constructors' Championship, denying Ferrari, of course, who have still, by the way, never won or taken pole here in Abu Dhabi, in the shadow of Ferrari World, with the world's fastest roller coaster. It's still not quite happened. 17 years now since their last championship. And they'll definitely, Ferrari, finish 4th in the Constructors' Championship this year, 418 points as they stand behind McLaren. A lot of laps completed. Max Verstappen and Alex Albon and Liam Lawson with 29 each. The most laps by anybody. So a quick change. Lando will come back because they'll do their practice starts on the grid at the end of the session.
Yeah, exactly. It's because of this pit lane exit that we see here under the circuit. He goes under turn 1. It's because of that you can't do a practice start at the end of the pit lane, so they have to do it on the grid.
So we've barely talked about George Russell, and we should talk about George Russell because he's up there in P3. The only race winner this season that goes into this final round not in contention of the championship. But what a season it's been for George Russell, who's completed more laps in a Grand Prix than any other driver this season. Only 2, I think, he's missed because he was 2 laps down in Monaco, and has completed 3,305 laps across all the sessions. That's the most of any driver as well. But more importantly for him, 2 wins, 9 podiums, and a heap of points for George, who, you know, said, I will rise to the challenge of being team leader at Mercedes, and I think is very much doing that.
He's been exemplary all season, hasn't he, George? He's, for me, one of the drivers of this year. And although he hasn't always been in the limelight because the car hasn't really delivered a lot of the time, but when it has been able to deliver, he's extracted everything out of it. So I've really enjoyed watching George Russell this year. Always fast, particularly in qualifying, and I'm sure he's going to do the same kind of thing this weekend. So the ride, he's saying, is completely gone, and I'm also seeing that his tyres have completely gone. His last lap was a 1 minute 31, whereas others have been in the 29. So yeah, that has completely rinsed through this set of medium tyres, but I guess it's all part of the learning for the team and what they can do come Sunday. But I think the quali pace at least should be there to maybe get in amongst one of the McLarens, maybe ahead of Verstappen. I don't know, he's very close to Verstappen's time as it is here.
Well, the fear for me, if you're any one of the 3 championship contenders, is that not only have you got George Russell to think about, but possibly Kimi Antonelli as well, because his form recently has come up, and also Kimi is, what, 2 points off Lewis Hamilton. He's got a top 6 in the championship to aim for, and wouldn't that be, you know, a brilliant achievement as a rookie driver?
It really will.
First season.
Yeah, it's been fascinating watching the rookies, how they... It's always fascinating watching how a rookie attacks a season, and for me, Kimi kind of hit the ground running with a lot of confidence. He put in a brilliant performance straight away in Melbourne in such tough conditions, and we saw other drivers like Isaac Hadjar falter and crash even before the start of the race. It was a really difficult day, and he shone through that day, but then got into this mid-season lull where it all seemed like hard work, but he's picked himself up brilliantly after that, and has been delivering that kind of magic that he was always hyped up to. Like we were led to believe. There was a lot of hype around him, and I think he's really started to show now consistently why there was this hype around him.
He's pulled up into pole. There is no significance to that. You just got to pull into to the one that's furthest up the grid. You think he might have settled to pull up in a P2? Of course he wouldn't.
He might, you know, I wouldn't put it past him to deliver a kind of lap that he put in Suzuka earlier in the year and just surprise everyone, including his own race engineer, who just, what were the words? That was insane, Max.
It was. That was his best performance this season, I think, of a whole weekend. Yeah.
Well,
the pole and the win. I mean, look, you could point to Brazil.
Many moments for him.
You can. I know you can point to Brazil, but I just think Suzuka as a weekend. Yeah, Brazil the race, fabulous, but it was that pole position that set up then his dominance in the race as well. No? Yes?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, it's that lap in Suzuka was really, truly spectacular, and nobody expected it. It came from nowhere, didn't it? And so that's why I know Norris looks like he's already got it in the bag. I'm not saying anything just yet.
Well, Lando Norris has said consistently, if you think Max Verstappen's out of this championship race, you're stupid. Lando Norris knew all the way along Max is not out of it, and even 3.5 tenths down in practice 2, I don't think he's out of it either. George Russell just a few hundredths behind Max Verstappen. Ollie Behrman, car's insane, P4, 4th place, his best finish in Formula 1 so far, got it in Mexico this year. Nico Hülkenberg qualified 4th last year, and he's 5th here, ahead of his teammate Gabriel Bortoleto. Hadjar, Leclerc, Alonso and Antonelli complete the top 10. Then comes Oscar Piastri, who on his flying lap we saw lock up, lose a heap of time in the chicane, turn 6 and 7. Is he playing catch up a little bit after missing the FP1 session? After that, lots of laps on the board, 1.8 seconds from Norris down to Gasly. We'll be back tomorrow. Practice 3 and qualifying to